Hey, what's up guys, it's DarkArmedDuelist, and today we're going to be doing a Gimmick Puppet deck profile, which is probably one of the most creepy decks in the entire game of Yu-Gi-Oh! It's really cool to be able to play with this deck because it summons some really powerful extra deck monsters like Gimmick Puppet of Dark Strings and some really awesome looking cards, but it is creepy looking. I love this deck because how it looks, and I really love the way that the deck plays because it makes rank 8, which are some of my favorite monsters in the entire game, which is really amazing. So without further ado guys, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, hit the bell on there so you can become part of the notification squad, and definitely check out the Patreon down in the description below for all those awesome rewards like getting your name description in a single video, getting a signed card in the mail, or even getting to request a deck profile every single month to your Patreon along with test hands. So without further ado, let's get straight on into this. So first off, we're going to be playing 3 copies of Gimmick Puppet Dreary Doll. So Dreary Doll is extremely creepy looking, but is one of the most powerful cards in the entire deck and one of the greatest extenders, because if this card is in your graveyard, you can banish another Gimmick Puppet monster you control, or banish a Gimmick Puppet from the graveyard, to special summon this card from the graveyard. And you can only effect this card once per turn. And this card cannot be used for the XZ material of a monster other than a Gimmick Puppet monster, but it's a really good card because it's a 0/0 machine, which can be used for machine dupe to get you 2 more copies of it out of the deck. We then play 3 copies of Gimmick Puppet Bisque Doll. Bisque Doll is really interesting because you just special summon this card from your hand by discarding any other Gimmick Puppet monster. You can banish it from the graveyard, and your opponent cannot target your Gimmick Puppet monsters you control with card effects this turn, which is really good. We play 3 copies of Magnet Doll. Magnet Doll is really neat because if all monsters you control are all Gimmick Puppet monsters, you can special summon this card from your hand. That's not once per turn, and if your opponent controls a monster, you can special summon this card from your hand, which is a really cool effect. But you do have to control another Gimmick Puppet monster, which is kind of the restriction of this card. We then play 3 copies of Gimmick Puppet Humpty Dumpty. Humpty Dumpty is really cool because when this card is normal summon or special summon, you can special summon a Gimmick Puppet monster from your hand, which is a really good effect just to be able to get you an additional monster on your side of the field. And then we're going to play my personal favorite of them all for creepy reasons. We're going to be playing 3 copies of Terror Baby. Terror Baby is crazy looking. This card is really cool. And when this card is summoned, or when this card is normal summoned, you get to target 1 Gimmick Puppet monster in your graveyard except another copy of itself, and special summon in defense position. And you can manage this card from the graveyard, and your opponent cannot activate cards or effects in response to the activated effects of your Gimmick Puppet monster's effects, which is insane. It makes them all speed spell 4 effects, which is great, and it's probably the creepiest looking of them all, I have to say. We then play a single copy of Gearspring Spirit. Gearspring Spirit is really cool because it has the ability that if all monsters you control are machines in your graveyard, minimum 1, then you can special summon this card to your side of the field. It also has the ability to target 1 face of monster your opponent controls, and its attack becomes 0 until the end phase, which is pretty cool because you can basically attack through a monster because this has 100/100. The only downside of this card is it's not a machine dupe target because it says it can't be normal summoned or set. It must be special summoned from your hand by its own effect, which kind of is a disappointment because I would love to have this card as a machine dupe target. We then play 2 copies of Mecha Phantom Beast Tetherwolf. Tetherwolf is a normal summon in the deck. It's one of the only normal summons in the deck outside of your copy of the Terror Baby and a single copy, or the Humpty Dumpty as well. But basically what this card does is it lets you go directly for your copy of Chimera Doll, which is fantastic in this deck, just to be able to go immediately for this card on your side of the field. By linking away the token that this card summons and linking away itself to the graveyard, you can immediately go for Chimera Doll, which can get you some really good plays in this deck. So that's it for the monsters, guys. Let's get into the spells. So for the spells, we're going to be playing a single copy of Rank Up Magic Urgent Chaos Force, because this card just went back to 3 after the ban list, because this card is really good, but at the same time, it's not as good without your copy of, your top Exexel. So what this card does is you get to target 1 rank 5 or higher XZ monster you control and special summon from your extra deck 1 number C or CXZ monster that is 1 rank higher than that monster you control by using that monster as a material, and then you transfer all the materials to that monster. It also has the ability that when a rank 5 or higher XZ monster is special summoned to your side of the field while this card's in the grave, except during the damage step, you can add this card back to the graveyard to your hand, and you only use the effect of this card once per duel, which is really good to be able to just kind of balance the card. But you can only need really 1 copy of it because it's searchable in the deck, and is just an overall really good card. We then play a single copy of Rank Up Magic Numeron Force. I like Numeron Force as a 1-of in this deck because it lets you target one face-up XZ monster you control, special summon from your extra deck one number C monster with the same type as that monster, but one rank higher, and then if any face-up cards are on the field other than the monster that was special summoned by this effect, you can negate the effects of all other cards, which is really good because if you summon out a copy of, say, Gimmick Puppet of Dark Strings after the copy of Gimmick Puppet of Strings has already put string counters on everything, it just negates everything and it destroys everything, which is great. We then play 2 copies of Quick Chaos, which is basically just a quick rank up magic spell, which is really good to play as a 2-of in this particular build. I play a single copy of Perform Puppet. Perform Puppet lets me banish a Gimmick Puppet monster from my graveyard, and then all monsters currently on the field become the banished monsters level until the end of the turn. And also, if a face-up Gimmick Puppet monsters you control cannot be destroyed by battle or by a card effect, and sent to the graveyard, then you can target one of your banished Gimmick Puppet monsters and special summon it, which is pretty good just to be able to get them back and they kind of replace themselves and float, because if they do get destroyed by battle or by opponent's card effect, then you just get to special summon a banish one back to your side of the field, which is pretty good. We then play a single copy of Condolence Doll. Condolence Doll is really neat because it's basically like a Foolish Burial, because you can send a Gimmick Puppet monsters from your deck to the graveyard up to the number of monsters your opponent currently controls that were special summoned from the extra deck +1. So if your opponent controls 3, you get to send 4, which is really cool. And then also it has the ability that you can also banish this card from the graveyard and then target one Machine XZ monster you control, and it can't be destroyed by opponent's card effects while face up on the field. And it'll affect this card once per turn. We then play 2 copies of Junk Puppet, which is essentially Monster Reborn for your Gimmick Puppet monsters, which is really good. And then we play 3 copies of Machine Dupe. Machine Dupe, you have a couple of targets in the deck to actually go off with this in the form of your copies of your Dreary Doll, which is a 0/0. You have your copies of your Humpty Dumpty, which is a 0/100, and you can even use it with my personal favorite of all the creepy ones, and you can use it with this one too, which is really good. Which is just an overall really good play because you can make rank 8s, you can make rank 4s, you get all sorts of big plays, and this card is just really good just to get you extenders. The only thing that I found that's a problem for me is sometimes I'll have 1 or 2 of them already in the, or 1 copy of them in the graveyard and 1 of them on the field, so I only get 1 special summon, but it's basically like a free 1-of if you do get just 1 card to make a free rank 8, which is really cool. We then play 3 copies of Trade-In to round out the spells, because you do play a lot of level 8 monsters in the main deck. Like, I think it's like 9 copies of level 8 monsters in the form of the 3 Dreary Doll, 3 Bisque Doll, and 3 copies of the Magnet Doll. Oh, and then the 1 copy of Gear Spring Spirit, so you actually play 10 rank 8s or level 8s in the main deck. So this card is always going to be live pretty much. So that's it for the spells, guys. Let's get into the traps. So for the traps, we're going to be playing 2 copies of Trap Trick, because Trap Trick is really good. It basically counts as your copies of Puppet Parade, which Puppet Parade is really good in this deck because Puppet Parade is probably one of the best cards in the entire deck. Trap Trick can count as any of your trap cards by banishing another copy of a trap card from the deck, and then you get to set the exact copy that you banished. So for example, if I activate Trap Trick, I can then banish a copy of Puppet Parade and set an additional copy face down on my field to then have this card on my side of the field, but I can only activate 1 trap for the rest of the turn, which is totally fine to be able to do, but it's just really important to get to my copy of Puppet Parade because it is the card that the deck is kind of based around. Because if your opponent controls more monsters than you do, you can special summon Gimmick Puppet monsters with different names from your deck up to the difference, and then if your opponent's life points are at least 2,000 higher than yours, you can set a Rank Up Magic normal spell directly from your deck. Then for the rest of the turn, after this card resolves, you cannot special summon monsters except for Gimmick Puppet monsters, which is totally fine, but you're usually going to use this during your opponent's battle phase after they've smacked you at least once. And you want to go, I usually go first in my build because I let them attack me 1 time, and then I resolve the Puppet Parade to be able to get me the monsters on my side of the field and go off with all sorts of different crazy plays. We then play 3 copies of Infinite Impermanence. You can use the Infinite Impermanence with a copy of Trap Tricks, which is super helpful for this deck to be able to just go into those additional plays, and it gives you a little bit of a hand trap ability as well, to be able to stop at least 1 card against your opponent, which is super, super nice. If you're looking for a little bit more budget build, you can drop these and play 2 more copies of Gear Spring Spirit and another copy of Tetherwolf to kind of balance the deck out to where you're playing 2 Gear Spring Spirits and a Tetherwolf to play 3 and 3 of each. that is an option for you guys if you don't want to play the infinite impermanence if they're too expensive. So that's it for the main deck, guys. Let's get into the extra deck. So for the extra deck, we're going to be playing 2 copies of number C40 Gimmick Puppet of Dark Strings. Dark Strings is really, really good in this deck because it has the ability that when this card is special summoned, you can destroy any monster with string counters that that are on the field, and if you do, you draw 1 card and then inflict damage to your opponent equal to the highest original attack among the destroyed monsters. And if it's a tie, you get to choose, and then once per turn you can detach a material from this card and then place a string counter on each face-up monster your opponent controls as well, which kind of rolls you into the second copy of this card to then again blow a board. We then play 2 copies of Gimmick Puppet of Strings. Gimmick Puppet of Strings can once per turn detach a material from this card and then place 1 string counter on each face-up monster on the field except this card, and if you do, during your opponent's next end phase, you destroy all monsters with string counters on it, and if you do that, inflict 500 points of damage to your opponent for each destroyed monster. But the really cool thing is you can go into this, and then immediately after this card is summoned, detach a material, put string counters on all the monsters, and then rank it up into C40 with one of your rank up magic spells, and then once you do that, you're basically going to blow board with your copy of number C40, which is what's really cool about this deck. So we're then going to be playing a single copy of C15 Gimmick Puppet Giant Hunter. Giant Hunter is really cool because once per turn you can detach a material from this card, target a card your opponent controls, and then destroy it. And if you do, if it was a monster, you inflict damage to your opponent equal to that monster's original attack, which is really, really good. 2 copies of Gimmick Puppet of Giant Grinder. Giant Grinder is a good 2 of. I do sometimes just make the second Giant Grinder and leave it on the field. And up to twice per turn during the main phase 1, you can detach a material from this card and then target a special monster your opponent controls and destroy it. And then if it was an XZ monster, you inflict damage to your opponent equal to the original attack, which is really good for this particular deck. I play a single copy of number C80, C88. This card is really good too because C88 is just a win condition, which is really neat. It also is a really big beat stick at 3,500, and it must be special summoned with a rank up magic spell targeting a number 88 Gimmick Puppet of Leo, and it cannot be special summoned by other ways. This card cannot be targeted by card effects, and then once per turn you can detach a material from this card to inflict 1,000 points of damage to your opponent. And during the end phase, if your opponent's life points are 2,000 or less and this card has no materials on it, you instantly win the duel, which is a really neat effect. We then play a single copy of Gimmick Puppet of Leo. Gimmick Puppet of Leo is actually my favorite in the entire deck. For the actual like XZ monsters, it's an insanely good effect because it lets you once per turn, if you have no cards in your spell and trap card zone, you can detach a material from this card, and if you do, place a destiny counter on this card, and you cannot conduct your battle phase this turn. And if you do that, and this card has 3 destiny counters on it, then you instantly win the duel, which is a really neat effect. I love the way that this card plays, and it's really neat to kind of surprise your opponent to be able to go into this and then go into this card and kind of lose all the materials on this and inflict 1,000 points of damage. Usually I just use this to step into the copy of number C88 to kind of burn my opponent for 1,000 every turn, which is really nice. We then play a single copy of Dingirsu because it's a level 8 dark machine monster that you can go into pretty easily. One copy of Garganta X, it helps search your machine monsters out of the deck that are level 4 or lower. One copy of Gigantus Doll is really cool because when this card, you have to take 2 Gimmick Puppets to summon this. You can detach 2 materials from it, target 2 monsters your opponent controls, gain control of them until the end phase, and also for the rest of the turn, you cannot special summon monsters except for Gimmick Puppet monsters, nor declare attacks with monsters except for Gimmick Puppet monsters. And you can also tribute this card and make all monsters you currently control level 8 until the end of the turn, which is really good just to be able to use the monsters that you take away from your opponent to be able to go into number 40, number 15, or number 88, which is really neat. And then 1 AA Zeus because you can blow board with this card by using it as a material or using any of your Gimmick Puppet monsters as a material to go into this. And then you play 2 copies of Chimera Doll just to kind of round out the monsters. Chimera Doll is really neat because during the main phase, if you control this face-up link summon card, you can activate the effect that you can have special monsters from the extra deck for the rest of the turn, except machine monsters. Also, you take a Gimmick Puppet monster from your deck and either add it to your hand or send it to the grave. And if all monsters you currently control are Gimmick Puppet monsters, you can special summon a Gimmick Puppet from your hand, which gets you additional plays to go off into some really cool plays in this particular deck. So that's it for the deck, guys. I hope you did enjoy it. It's a really fun deck to play with. It's relatively budget outside the AA Zeus, but you don't have to play the AA Zeus. It's important for the deck because it helps out blowing board, but it's not one of those cards if you don't have it, it's going to make or break the deck. And I already kind of gave you guys in the deck profile ways to play around with your infinite impermanence if you don't want to play those. So you can make the deck really budget, which is really cool to be able to play this deck. So anyways, guys, this is DarkArmedDuelist. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, hit the bell in there so you can become part of the notification squad, and we'll see you guys in the next video. See you later, guys.